Hello guys, this is me Bandit here bringing you guys another video. So this video is going to be a bit different. It's not going to be a gaming video or a thank you video or an update video. It's going to be me sharing my knowledge of building PCs, and in this series I'm going to be going over what the best items for the best PC in your price range is. Um, so let's get into the build. This build is going to be roughly close to $580 to $600. Computer prices vary all the time, but let's start off this build with um, the SSD that you guys will be storing your OS on. Um, it's made by SanDisk, which is a pretty good seller. I personally went with Crucial because it was a bit faster, but this one is a bit cheaper, and I've tried to make this build as cheap as possible for the price. It has nice reviews, and overall it seems like a good SSD. Alright, next up, let's start with the processor. So, the processor we're going with is the i5 4460 because it's a great processor for gaming. While it is really good, it definitely will help if you are like going to be live streaming or editing videos. Having those 4 cores and 4 threads with your processor definitely is very useful. Now let's start off with the power supply, which is made by EVGA. EVGA makes quite a few good power supplies. I'm really not a fan of Corsair power supplies, mainly because they just don't feel as high quality as EVGA, but it's 500 watts. It should power everything in the build and probably give you enough power to upgrade your graphics card later down the line if you wanted to. But EVGA, they make great power supplies, great warranties. Overall, EVGA is a pretty good brand. So for the case, we are going with a Corsair Carbide Series Spec 01. It's a really nice mid-tower case. I personally don't own one, but it looks pretty nice actually. It's mid-tower, so all our parts will fit very well in it, and it has good reviews. Now let's start off with the motherboard, which is an LGA 1150 socket motherboard. It will fit the processor. It has 4 RAM slots up to DDR3 1600 MHz. And ASRock is a pretty decent motherboard brand. I personally prefer Gigabyte, but this is a bit cheaper than Gigabyte motherboards in this price range. It looks pretty nice too. It has USB 3.0, and since the processor isn't overclockable, we don't need to go with an overclockable motherboard. Alright, now for the graphics card. This is probably something you would probably want to upgrade next in the build, but it's a Zotac GTX 750 Ti. It basically is a slightly lower clocked version of the card I own, but it is pretty dang good. It will play any game you want at 1080p at medium to high settings and pretty close to 60 FPS, so I personally recommend it if you're on a budget. Alright, now for the hard drive. Since we went with a 120GB SSD, you probably won't be able to fit too many games on that. So we're gonna add a Western Digital Blue 1TB 7200 RPM hard drive. Western Digital makes great hard drives. They are pretty dang reliable. I personally think if you're gonna buy a hard drive, don't buy a Seagate. buy a Western Digital hard drive. And 1 terabyte should be enough to hold quite a few games. Now for the RAM. This is the same RAM I have. It's 8 gigabytes, 1600 megahertz. It will fit in the motherboard just fine, and it's pretty dang cheap. Overall, I think this build would be great if you're trying to get into PC gaming. It gives you an SSD for super fast speeds. It gives you 8 gigs of RAM. It gives you a solid graphics card. And overall, I think this is one of the best $600 builds you can get out there. But anyways, like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you hated it. But there's also something I wanted to say. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in the past 5 days. But I will be doing daily uploads. That is something I can almost promise you. Super sorry for not uploading lately. Yeah, guys. This is Bandit signing out.